and I help people become an even better leader. And today I'm delighted again to have David Jenyns as my guest on our show, just to talk about his new book. Previously, he's been very famous for SYSTEMology, and that's how we became connected, because I've always recommended it to my customers and I've thoroughly enjoyed it. And so today I've asked David to come and talk to me about the new book, Systems Champion. So David, welcome along and thank you for coming. So please start by telling me, and I know the answer, but it's for our viewers and listeners, what was it that drove you to write another book?
Yeah. Whenever I write a book, I write it to fill a hole, a gap in the market. So when I wrote Systemology, I felt like there's a lot of books saying why you should systemize, but there weren't very many that said how. So Systemology was really written for the business owner to show them how and help them to see that it's possible and achievable for them. And then the more work that I've done with business owners through Systemology, I've really identified what I think are the key leverage points, the biggest one. And the biggest being this idea of a systems champion. I talked about it in the original Systemology book, and it's the team member that helps the business owner roll out some of these systems thinking ideas and building out the systems culture. And I wanted to write something that really spoke to them, because Systemology was really for the business owner. And I feel like there isn't really any work out there that speaks, one, to identify this role, and then two, to really show that team member what to do. And that's what I thought, well, you know what, this is a big enough gap and it's the biggest leverage point I've identified. So let's write a book about it that really is the guidebook for the systems champion.
Yeah, fantastic, because having read the book and implemented Systemology in my own way through businesses that I've worked with, I noticed that the barrier to achieving the Systemology methodology was embracing it with the whole team. And even though you go into that in a big way in Systemology, it really was down to a person to lead it. So I actually tried doing that myself for one of my clients and became the systems champion. And it was very, very interesting, because adopting systems feels overwhelming. You know, how do we capture everything we do? You know, how do we make that work? I'm so busy, I can't do that all myself. And in effect, it's about spotting the person that can lead this for you, because they're actually at the coalface, if you like. They're the people in the centre of the business, not trying to focus on 80 million other things, but trying to focus on getting that thing done. And from my experience, I found, you know, that taking it one step at a time, breaking it down the way that you did in the original book, was very helpful indeed. But having read, and thank you for letting me read it, The Systems Champion, I've realised, you know, there was so much more to write about for the role of the Systems Champion. And absolutely, this is a really excellent book, and it's directed at that person to help them take it and run with it and embed systems in the business in a really, really practical and helpful way. So some of the things that in there that I was really impressed with was the way that you broke it into the what to do next section, the tools and the how to get started. If you'd like to just highlight a couple of the things that, if somebody's not sure how to pick a systems champion, what should they be looking out for? And then where should they start with, you know, for you to talk about the first tool to help that person?
So the systems champion is someone inside the organization. That's the real key, because you want the change to happen from within, and you want the systems champion to be the best example of someone following process and building up process. So one of the key characteristics is to make sure that they have capacity. That's one thing, because I find sometimes people will go, oh, yes, I'm the systems champion, and maybe they're the operations manager, maybe even they're the business owner or some other team member, but they're already very busy. And this is a new role that requires attention, time, and effort put into it. And if you don't have any of those, then systems are always important, but they're never urgent. So they remain on the to-do list and they never get done. So you want to make sure that whoever you choose has at least half a day a week that they can really devote to getting this done. Then you also want to make sure that you identify people that are naturally systems oriented. You know, those people who at home or automatically create a checklist or are very organized and detail oriented. And you don't have to teach them to do that. That's just how they are. And that's something that comes very natural to them. You also want someone, you know, there are quite a few other qualities, things like being curious, because they're going to meet with different team members and they want to learn how certain tasks are done. You want someone who's a good communicator, who can meet people at different levels, because they're going to be connecting with different team members at different levels of seniority and doing different tasks. So they need to be able to adjust to those people, because they want to meet with those people, find out what they're doing, capture it and document it and organize it. So, and also the more that we see with some of the new technologies that are coming out, AI, you want someone who's technically savvy, like they don't mind trying out new tools and they're comfortable on a computer and they already play around with ChatGPT and different AI tools to speed up the process. And that, again, just comes naturally to them. I think if you identify those first, those types of qualities, and maybe even someone with leadership potential, I always find that these people can be groomed and grow into great leadership team members down the line, but they might not start there. They might be a junior who's just hungry to learn about the business and work their way up the organization.
And I think if I was to pick one of those things as most paramount, it would have to be methodically curious. So
yes,
having to be methodical, because you could get really bogged down in the minutiae of the detail. And so although people might think you might need a detail person, what you need constantly is the big picture. So it's a person that can have big picture of how things fit together, but they need to be curious enough to know where everything fits together and capturing it in a way that's very accessible for everybody. So I would say methodically curious. And
yes.
I would point out here, a really good tool outside of your work might be disc profiling. Obviously, I'm going to pick that up because I'm a practitioner for that, because there are certain personality profiles that tend toward preferring systems and processes, and others who prefer to rush, or others who don't want much detail. There may be others that are all about the relationship and not about the process. So a disc profiling tool would be a really helpful way to identify a great system champion. As long as their systems tendencies comes up high in their profile, that would be a really good way to put those things together. I only just thought of that. I wish I'd thought about that sooner. We could have discussed it beforehand. So in the book, you've broken this down into an absolute how-to guide and provided everything for anybody who is new to this, who's never thought about it before. You can even go in right at entry level. It doesn't have to be your 15th business that you're turning around into a systems process. It could be the very first business you've ever owned, and you want to do it right. You want to get your business to be like a business in a box, ready to move forward, to either copy it or to put a manager in or to sell it. So this is a really great way to prepare your business for you to walk away, which obviously famously you've done that a few times with your business, prepared them for exit. And that's how comes you are such an expert in this field, and you can be totally believable with your work, because you've lived it and you've done it, and you've spoken all of this from your own experience. From a leadership point of view, this is very much about changing a culture, isn't it? The culture from everything is in my head, I'm the business owner, I know about my business, to trusting people to capture what they do, that what's best for the business to make it safe and robust, so that if a key person doesn't happen to be there that day, there is a system that operates without that ability for one person to be at the key of it and own it inside and not share it. Quite often a culture going over to systems can create a sense of people feeling, well, where will my sense of importance be if I let go of what I know? Have you come across this sort of phenomena before? People owning their own knowledge and not wanting to capture it down?
Yeah, it happens commonly for people who have a scarcity mindset, and people who might want to be protecting their job, and they sometimes feel like if people don't really know what I'm doing, if I've got a bit of a black box around me, then that creates some level of job security, because you can't really get rid of me because you don't really know what it is that I'm doing or how long it takes. So that does happen. And as soon as you spot that, you need to identify that as cancer inside the business, and it needs to be cut out straight away, because that spreads. And it might have just happened by default, and without thought, you just started building, and you didn't give much thought to building an accountable, transparent organization. But once you start to see this and you start to think about it, you need to be intentional in the way that you're building the business. If you want to be able to let go and step away from the day-to-day operations, you have to trust that your team is going to be able to deliver and get things done. And for a lot of business owners that are recovering and reforming micromanagers who love to know all of that detail, you want to have a system or a way that if you want to or you need to, you can jump into certain aspects of the business and go, that's where that client's up to, or that particular project. And that's actually part of the first stepping stones for you to get out of the day-to-day operation, because you can have confidence to know, well, if I did need to, I can step in. I don't need to, but if I did. And then over time, you get less and less likely to step in, because you've built this culture that everybody knows who's doing what by when, and it happens out in the open for everyone to see. You want to do your best as a business owner to break these silos down and recruit team members that are happy to work in an open, transparent organization.
I totally agree with that. I've worked with a lot of businesses, and often going through a process of change. And this is a process of change for a lot of people. You do end up with people who are on board and people who are not on board. And sometimes there is an agreement to part ways. And I think that's, important to be upfront about that. Going through this transformation process, there will be people who don't want to go along the ride, but that's a happy outcome, because they can go somewhere else and do something else that helps them. And you can be left with a company that is filled with people who understand this journey and this culture of capturing everything, because it does create more security in a way. The business becomes safer. So if you don't have a systemized culture and you have these silos, when one person's not there, or heaven forbid something awful happens to them, nobody is secure and nobody is safe. When you've built a business that is built on systems and everything is transparent and captured, then your business has got more of a robust future, because it doesn't depend on a key person who has got some sort of secret information. The thing can go on in perpetuity without that key thing needing that person being there with all the secrets that you've got to hold it to them. I did work in an organisation before I was a coach with a person who never wanted to let go of anything. And it gave that person an artificial sense of power and control. And then ultimately, in the end, they did have to become no longer part of that organization. And you can see why, it's a false sense of security to have that secret. And the future of the business does depend on the replicatable, duplicatable nature of it. And that's why systems are so fantastic, because then you have got a future that's secure for everybody rather than just for the one person. So in a way, the culture moves from an I to a we. And I think I absolutely love that. And that does require a certain philosophy, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think understanding that you're building a business that works beyond you. Most business owners, when they first get started, it's just them. They're the solo practitioner. They know how to do the technical work, and they're used to that. They build this picture up in their head of the business. That is them doing the work and getting the great result. As you start to grow and you're looking to scale and you bring in team members, the real key is to remove the key person dependency. We want to have the systems that work and drive the business. Like it's very systems driven. And then you get the people that drive the systems. And in that way, where you're able to make the people interchangeable, which means you're in a much better position to grow and scale. Because, and if someone needs to take leave for holidays, or they need to attend to some family, or for whatever reason they can't come into work, we want to make sure that someone else can step in and complete the role, so that the business continues to function, so that it gets great results, which then makes everybody's job more secure. So there is a mindset shift that needs to happen here. It starts with the business owner, and then it will trickle down to the team for them to understand that when the business is healthy, when the business is doing well, we all do well. And we need to make sure that the business remains healthy, because then that gives the most opportunities to all of us. So I think that kind of speaks to what you were talking about before with those individuals creating the black box. They don't realize that they have more opportunity and their job is more secure, the better performing the business.
And I think that's a key part of the nature of the person who's going to be the systems champion, because they've got to have that understanding that when they're working with others in the team, those people are going to impart their specialisms, their knowledge, their understanding to the systems champion. And that systems champion needs to be very respectful and to understand there may be some fear there. And any change creates suspicion. So therefore, the role of the systems champion is somebody who has to be, if you like, a conduit for trust. They have to be selected. They have to be the person who can deliver this message that we've just highlighted, that this is for the future for all. I'm not here to threaten your position in this organization. So therefore, the selecting and having a resource for your systems champion is key. So this book has just absolutely come a fantastic time for people. With AI and automation at the front of everybody's minds, there couldn't be a better time for people to go into a systems-led culture. So would you just want to touch on the topic of AI and how that fits in nicely with the Systems Champion as a book?
I opened the book with a story about having to lay off 7 staff very shortly after ChatGPT came out, because in part, a large department in our business was for documentation. We would work with clients where we would take their recorded processes and we would watch those videos and turn them into step-by-step processes and send them back to them as completed beautiful SOPs that anybody could follow. So that was a part of the business. And AI comes out, and now you can take the transcription from a how-to video, load it into ChatGPT, ask it to draft the process, and at the speed of AI, you watch it happen before your very eyes. You get a fantastic draft one of this SOP. So as soon as that happened, I realized that a big part of our business was going to change. And I tried to reseat some of the team members into some other roles, but we were very clearly over capacity because this whole function basically disappeared overnight. And it really got me to sit down and go, what role does process play in an AI world? What other parts of my business could be disrupted? And the more that I tested my thinking and doubled down, I realized that process is essential in an AI world, because regardless of what AI you're using, the machines still need to be told what to do. And where a lot of people get lost with AI is going, oh, I've got this business. I wonder where AI can help me. Here's this bright new shiny object, this brand new tool that can create very fancy images for me, or rewrite some social media content, or whatever it might be. And just because the tool can do something doesn't mean you should be doing it. Really, the way to approach AI is to go, how do we deliver value to our clients? What are the processes that underpin the delivery of that value? And once you're clear on that, then you say, and how can AI help us do that faster, cheaper, and better, and accelerate what it is that you're already doing? So in that way, I've come to realize that the businesses that are AI driven and more importantly, process first will win in this new era. Like I've got a great client example that was kind of like the poster child for me for this example. Sharon Schmidt, she runs an accounting firm here in Melbourne, and she was very process driven because of her original background in McDonald's, is where she got started. So when she built her accounting firm, it was all built off solid fundamentals of documenting process. And when AI hit and she first started embracing it, she took those SOPs and went to an AI specialist and a software developer and basically said, hey, here's what I'm doing in the business. Can you help me build some AI solutions and robots that can do some of these tasks now for me? And because she had the SOPs, they were the blueprint for that specialist to go, oh, yeah, I know what you want. I can build that. And now she's had tremendous and incredible growth. There's just one task I talk about in the book that saved her over 1,000 hours, man hours, every single year from automating this one repetitive task, going from documented process to like a little AI robot that completes it. And that was just one of hundreds of different tasks she's automated. So that really that's got me even more fired up about why process right now is so important for business owners.
And I think you've struck a really big point there around the systems champion being somebody who can competently help others to capture what's currently happening in a business and to get it down as it currently stands, rather than to try and do what it is now and how do we improve it. You have to capture what's actually happening first. And I've seen this firsthand where people get so excited about systems that they try and capture and create new on top. So the systems champion must be the person that what is happening now, and you go so well in the book over this, you must capture what's currently happening and not try to do two steps at once. You have to go from A to B to C. You can't do A and C at the same time. So, and I think you've just illustrated that point. Your client went into systems and then went to AI. And I think there's a lot in that. If somebody just takes that one thing away from listening today, and then obviously reads the book, that would be really, really helpful. So we've been on for quite a while. I'm very conscious of your time. So if you've got one message for your fans out there who've read Systemology, why should they get Systems Champion?
They should get it for their systems champion. It's obvious that the person watching this wants to build a systems-driven business. This is what I do day in and day out, and I've thought deeply about this for years, and I've identified the real key biggest leverage points. This is part of my mission to free business owners worldwide from the day-to-day operations, and I know this works, and it's been endorsed heavily by some very well-respected business leaders, and they do that because it works. So I just hope that when you watch this, you get some inspiration to go, I can do this. I might not be my business's systems champion. I might not be the best person to document. I might not even be a systems person myself. But that doesn't mean as a business owner, you can't own a systems-driven business. It's actually very common for the business owner to not be great with systems. That's extremely common, and that's okay and normal. The key is to make sure that you find the right people to complement where you might not be strong. And that is the systems champion. And this book is for them. So if you don't have a systems champion, get the book, because at the start of the book, it tells you who they are, where to find them, gives you a position description. If you are a systems champion, then get the book, because it'll then show you what do you do and in what order.
Yes, it's thoroughly, and I love it, because in its structure itself, it is a system, and that's a system having systems, and I totally love that. So I think I'd like to round it up then. I'm so grateful for you to come on and talking to me, Little Old Me. And I'm a huge fan of the first book. I'm now a huge fan of the second book. And I would like to urge people to take this all on board and try to avoid big mistakes by trying to do too much all at once, and also to reach out to David with regards to anything systems. And if you're interested in anything to do with leadership or disprofiling to find the correct systems champion, then please contact me. And I look forward to my next session, and wishing you all the best with the sale of your book. Thanks, David. That's really, really great. Thank you.
Fantastic.